Starting now, this is Real People. Real issues. Real news. Real people.
I'm Stephanie Allensworth, and this is Real People.
This is Real People.
The shadow of your smile when you are gone will color all my dreams and light the dawn.
Hi, welcome to the show. I have the honor today to be sitting here with an award-winning vocalist, Patty Peterson. Thanks for having me here in your house today, Patty.
Well, this is so fun because I wanted to say thank you for coming here. I mean, this is really an honor to be able to talk to you a little bit about what I've been up to in the comfort of my own lower level. That's what they call it these days. Yeah. Anyway, my rehearsal room and my family room, you know.
Mm-hmm.
So,
yeah,
anyway.
and speaking of family, you have a whole wall dedicated to your family here.
I do.
Yeah, and your roots are all from music. So let's talk a little bit about where it all started.
Oh my gosh. Well, this wall that's dedicated to my family, it's an honor to be able to display the love that we have for each other. It's all about family. It says it right there on the wall.
Yeah.
Mom and Dad met. Mom was a child prodigy, great piano player, and you see her, she's looking over the piano keys. And her name's Jeannie Arlen Peterson, and she was 3 when she started playing with both hands. So that's child prodigy stuff.
Right.
And she could sing, and by about age 15, her brother Donald was a great saxophonist. Their last name was Pouliot. Worked in the speakeasy around the Twin Cities. She was 15 when she got her first job as a vocalist and a piano player in a nightclub, and he was her guardian at that point, saying, oh, I'll make sure she does her homework. Anyway, as she got a little bit older, she started working as a vocalist for WCCO radio before canned music came in. But the cool thing back in the day, and I'm going to say we're talking about late 30s or 40, she was about 19, and in those days, of course, you had one car, and they would go around and pick up all the musicians. How did they fit the gear in the car? I don't know. But if there was a girl singer, she probably had to sit on somebody's lap. So one day when that happened, Dad was the piano player, and she was just the girl vocalist, not just, but because she really sang great. But she said, oh, he's cute, I'll sit on his lap, and the rest is history. So 6 kids later, and they got married when he was almost going to be sent out to New Guinea in the war, World War II. And when he came home, they were playing nightclubs and private parties and did jingle sessions. And he eventually joined WCCO Radio 2 as a staff musician. So, you know, growing up, we had big band charts and a staff library. It was really cool. That all changed about the beginning of the 1960s when LPs came in. But we have in our possession some of the vintage wire recordings from back in the day, and also acetate, which is like about the size of a 33, but live recordings of what was going on the radio. So there is just a history that we have of that era of music, which is great. So when we were born and growing up in that environment, there were musical instruments in our lower level in Richfield, Minnesota. And we had a grand piano, 2 Hammond organs, a drum set, upright bass, might have been a sax, I don't quite remember. We were all taught classical piano and or organ. And you know, that was just our environment. And my sister Linda says the greatest thing, you know, when we do a family show, she said, yeah, we used to just say, hey, what does your dad play? Instead of what does your dad do? So anyway, as it turns out, we grew up and realized that not everybody had the language of music in their households as well. We didn't think we were special, but that's what we did. And we did church, you know, gymnasium, fall fundraisers and things like that because, you know, it just was the trickling down effect. We all sang and played.
And so they both were at WCCO Radio, and you are now into radio.
I am into radio, and as a matter of fact, it was I was a little tiny girl. I was about 3 years old, maybe even younger. Mom was there, and they would take me down to the radio station, and Joyce Lamont used to take me out of the room when Mom had to go live. And I remember would she buy me an orange pop at 9 o'clock in the morning? I don't know, something crazy like that.
That's your orange juice.
Yeah, probably. Anyway, so we were at WCCO Radio as much as they could allow to bring us as well. So what happened for me was I had an affection for them, and when we wanted to promote a concert coming up, I would book an appointment to go and speak with one of the on-air hosts. Well, you know, as in the music industry and in any industry, you get, I need to do something different. And my sister once again said, listen, Patty, I think you should see if you could get a part-time job there. And I'm thinking, yeah, right. It's one of the biggest stations in the country. Come on. And doggone it if I didn't call, and for about a year massaged it. And I held that intention and desire that I would love to be able to do this and help people with information that I've learned. And I don't want anybody's job. It wasn't about that. But what would it take to become a rotating sub? We're talking 1997, and I was there for a little over 6 years, I think.
At WCCO,
At WCCO Radio. I had a hiatus, had a health issue, and then now I'm at Jazz 88, which is a radio station that has been in the Twin Cities for, I'm going to say, about 50 years, maybe not quite. It's a great radio station, man. Swinging jazz, contemporary jazz, roots music as well. There's a night of blues on Friday night. And they also have the super cool thing they do for students. They created an elective. So it's located in the building of North High in North Minneapolis. And students can sign up for this elective. They learn not only about the jazz artists, but they learn about how to communicate, how to be on the air, how to eventually use the equipment. And Jazz with Class occurs between 9 a.m. and 3 p.m. Sometimes there's a lot of students, and that's all you hear, like over the summer, you're going to hear student-led programming between 9 a.m. and 3. So that's a pretty cool thing. Then, of course, you have your drive time in the morning and drive time with professional radio hosts every day. So what I do is I have a Sunday afternoon show, Contemporary Jazz, and then I'm one of their first call subs. It's great. I love it.
Yeah, it sounds very organic. That it came from a place in your heart that was very organic. You know, it's because
that's a good way to put it.
Yeah, yeah. It just seems like a right fit for you, and you're doing more of it. You're branching out a little more.
Yes. You know what? I'm actually in a really cool thing right now. Besides my radio shows, there. Through the jazz station, we got a grant to be able to feature our Minnesota jazz legends. And it began with my mom when she was still alive. She's been gone about 5 years. And Dad died when he was 48, so we didn't have him very long in our family on opening day of baseball. More on that later. Anyway, he was the organist for the Twins. Shoot. Anyway, what we're doing right now is we're in the process of editing and creating a radio documentary on Minnesota jazz legends, the elders. And of course, of course they're older, but I mean elders meaning they have the wisdom of what has gone on in the Twin Cities jazz scene from the get-go, back when Louis Armstrong was taking a boat up the Mississippi River and playing in St. Paul at the river docks, and then going back down to New Orleans. You know, some of them have seen music throughout the nightclubs, throughout the dinner clubs, the private parties, the flame room where, you know, Kid Can would come and you'd have to switch in the middle of your set and play his favorite song. I mean, this is brilliant stuff. We're making Minnesota history, and we're honoring these people by letting them tell their story, and a lot of them still play, Stephanie. It's amazing.
Yeah.
Really amazing.
Well, you never lose it, right?
Well, you know, you'll never lose your desire. Is your game as sharp as it once was? No, probably not. But that doesn't mean we don't want to hear your story. So I feel like it's a calling. I feel really good about that. And Mom was one of the first people we had on. So,
well, I want to tell you that I had the pleasure of seeing your mom play one time at the casino when Donnie Osmond was there.
Oh, you saw that.
I saw that
gosh.
Because Donnie's my man, you know. And when she
stand in line, that's all I got to say.
I know. Yeah, and when she came on, boy, I tell you, she hadn't lost any of it.
Oh.
She was just killing the keys.
I know, and this is her late 80s, and she had to kind of be escorted to the piano bench. And she did that throughout her whole life. She had a gift from God. Oh, my goodness. And guess what else? She raised us to talk like that, too. It's a gift, use it.
Yeah.
So Donny Osmond became like another brother because my youngest brother, Paul, St. Paul, was his musical director for 10 years.
Awesome.
And he is a funny, fun guy, and we loved that part of our lives and being able to hang out with him a little bit.
Yeah, yeah.
So yeah, Mom tore the roof off that night. I was there too.
Were you?
It was pretty cool to witness, and I think I probably took her, and she's just like, oh, no big deal.
Oh my gosh,
Oh my gosh.
I was like literally starstruck. I mean, just watching them, but that's me. So let's talk more about the people. You were talking a little bit about your house growing up and, and the basement, and how about some of the people that came and went through the years that you got to meet?
Oh gosh, well, we were raised in Richfield, and in our lower level, we're in my lower level, but in my parents' lower level, this room filled with instruments, it housed all of our rehearsals. It housed jingle writing sessions and rehearsals for our parents. And eventually through the years, and when Mom was a widow at 47, she was still this brilliant piano player. And she'd actively go out and hear music. Sometimes because my older brother Billy is this phenomenal upright bass player, but also was the Steve Miller bassist for 23 years. He would bring these jazz artists in to Mom's house. He'd bring them into the Twin Cities, but then they'd come over for an after party. And I remember, Eddie Harris and guitarist Howard Roberts and David Sanborn, Joe Sample on piano, he and Mom hip to hip on the piano, and then doing a barbecue at the pool. This was how we lived. I mean, it really is that infamous Richfield, Minnesota basement, and it's still in the family, Stephanie. Our youngest brother bought the house, and our rehearsals are still there, and it's pretty cool.
That is cool.
That is when they're not here.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah, because I know that you do some rehearsals here as well.
I do, and a lot of people will see, our pictures when we're the Jazz Women All-Stars. I love featuring my jazz female friends, whether they're vocalists or musicians or the members of the TC Jammers. We've been here as well, and Patty Peterson and Friends is the group I've had for a long, long time. So
yeah. Before that, though, you were also into R&B. You also did some funk.
Yes.
You were all over the place.
Yeah,
just doing it all.
You know what? That's great that you brought that up because when we were growing up, we heard what's called the Great American Songbook, and that's a style of jazz that a lot of people maybe they wouldn't recognize it, but we're talking Gershwin, Cole Porter. They were songs from shows that eventually became the popular music on the radio, and then they would become jazz tunes, and people would play a little different melody second time around, or maybe the jazz vocalist would scat differently, let's say Ella Fitzgerald. But that's what we were raised on. Then, of course, I think maybe the Monkees was the first album my dad bought me in the rock and roll vein. I bought Rubber Soul in 1964 for myself with babysitting money. But I loved Aretha Franklin and Stevie Wonder and Tower of Power and a group called Cold Blood. And when I started singing at 16, I would sing funk, R&B, Tower of Power too, another one. Ooh, loved them so much. But I had an opportunity in my later 20s to sing jazz, Great American Songbook. And my older brother Billy, once again, got together with a great drummer and a keyboard player, and I segued over into a style of music where I was a little bigger fish in this smaller pond called jazz. We had some wonderful vocalists in town, but I was younger, and I'll tell you one thing. I worked with my cousin Bobby Peterson on piano. He was such an amazing jazz pianist. He was with Buddy Rich for a while. But when he would play an intro, I couldn't find do because it was so melodic. But that's what jazz, it expands your ear, and that's what we grew up on. So now as a performer, I would like to say that I sing probably even jazz or R&B. There is an R&B flair to my jazz singing, I would say. You know, in my most recent CD, you'll really hear that. It's called The Very Thought of You. Stokely Williams from Mint Condition on drums. He's usually the vocalist in that scenario. My brother Billy, once again, on upright bass. And David Hazeltine, an incredible jazz pianist, playing keyboards on that one. But we had guest artists, Bobby Lyle, Sheila E. playing percussion, and oh, let's see, who else is on it? Jim Rotundi on trumpet, and Jerry Bergonzi on saxophone, in addition to my whole family. You know, pretty cool to be able to say that, because it becomes art. It's art.
Right.
And I get to use my voice to create and have this thing called art. It's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I'd kind of like to juxtapose a little bit jazz to Latin, because we're Latin base of a lot of language. Jazz is the base of a lot of music. So if you can play jazz, you can do anything. It's like,
well, if you can play classical piano, you can play jazz. Because you think of the arpeggios that you have to do in classical piano, the dexterity is also what you're going to see in a jazz pianist. Isn't that interesting?
Yeah,
so,
very interesting.
Yeah. It's pretty cool. Well, I love Latin music. We'll have to talk about that sometime, because it kind of feeds my soul. That kind of music, totally. So
switching gears a little bit, you're also a speaker, and you're doing some inspirational talks these days. So you want to talk about Live Your Gift?
Yes, I do. You know, first of all, I can't talk about live your gift, live my gift, live your gift, unless I talk about what occurred. And I talked already about a hiatus, and it was a health hiatus between my 2 radio jobs. And, you know, our dad died of cancer. I had a younger brother who died of leukemia. So, you know, in your back of your mind, you're thinking, oh, well, maybe I hope I don't get that one day. Well, my cousin Bobby Peterson, that I alluded to, died of a heart attack at 52. And our grandfather did, Grandpa Peterson. And when I was in my late 20s and then again in my late 40s, I experienced a lot of irregular heartbeats. In my late 40s, through, you know, checking out what this was all about, because it didn't seem to want to calm down, even with a short, a couple of weeks of a medicine called a beta blocker. And that should slow your heart rhythm down. So in getting the proper testing, I realized that I had a leaky aortic valve. Now that's a valve that, you know, opens and shut, and the aorta is this upside down umbrella handle that comes out of the heart and feeds your entire body. Well, it was creating a backwash of sorts. So it was going through the body and coming back, a little bit of it. They told me I was going to have a valve replacement. We're talking about, I'm about 50 years old now when this happens. And I'm thinking, the heck I am. I don't want open heart surgery. I'm this big, strong, singer. You know, I can't imagine what that would be like to try to get through. So anyway, this is what's interesting about that. At the time, I didn't realize that my actual aorta was enlarging. And you know, I love holistic medicine. I have a whole long talk I could do about that too, but I was driving my car. I'm age 52. I'm gonna go hang out with my brother Ricky, keyboard player. He was with John Mayer at the time, and I said, you know what? No, I know you. You're starting at 1 a.m. I got to get up with my kids in the morning. And I'm driving home, and I feel a dagger in my chest. Luckily for me, it's 10:30 at night in Minneapolis, and there's no traffic. I pull right off to the side of the road. I'd been having issues, you know, I'd gone in a couple times, blood pressure spiked and things like this. And as it turns out, I had to call an ambulance and knew that I had to go to the hospital where my doctors were. And initially they had me diagnosed as a heart attack, but this incredible emergency room physician, Dr. Warren, he was looking at my x-ray, which is what you need to do, and he said, if I don't check her for this other thing, I could lose her. They bring me in to get the proper scan, called a CT scan, and it was like a SWAT team. His suspicion was that there was a big tear in this aorta, and it was true. I had an aneurysm that burst. Usually, that's when people are gone. So, you know, as friend Rick Barron said, you had a pack of angels in that back seat. Because of what they have done at Minneapolis Heart and Abbott Northwestern, my life was saved because it was in about an hour and a half they had me in emergency surgery. Now, the drama is just beginning. I'm singing to the doctor, somewhere over the rainbow, as I'm going into, as I'm going to be going into surgery. And because he said, oh, I promise you, we got to get going. I'll promise you that I'll come and hear you sing. He has yet to do it. But anyway, and then my family was there, and I was looking at all of them. It was the last minute or so I went, oh my gosh, what if I never see them? I was holding that they would fix me and I'd be right back. So, as it turns out, they pulled my husband and family aside and said, you better call everyone you know. This doesn't look good. The good news is, I did have to have the open heart surgery. I have a St. Jude mechanical valve. They repaired my aorta. And they came back out to my family waiting overnight saying, well, we're warming her up. She made it through. Fast forward about a year, and I'm singing again, and I didn't know if I'd ever sing again, so this is part of the drama. When I was, about a year and a half into my recovery, I was singing in a church service, and this woman said to me, wow, I really love the songs you're saying today. And I said, well, don't we all have music that follows us in our life, good times or bad? Well, and she said, yeah, but Patty, you know what? You really live your gift. And it was like zing. I had gotten this message because everyone was encouraging me, the WCCO talk radio host who interviewed 1 million book authors, to write a book. And I went, why would I write a book? Because there's so many people who have so much going on in their lives. What could I possibly say? So, as it turns out, this became a mission for me to remind people that they're born with incredible gifts. And to, whatever you have to do to get reacquainted with what you envisioned yourself being when you were a kid. Like, for example, if somebody goes out and rides a bike and they're a little kid, they're thinking about how they're going to move that bike. Well, isn't that how we have this visualization when we think, okay, I want to do this, I want to learn this new dance, I want to do this job, I know I can learn a recording studio, board or something like that. You hold that vision. Well, this is what I want people to do, is to get quiet. Remember, are you a good communicator? Are you an artist? Are you a musician? Are you a good listener? Because we all have these gifts. And for me to get up and to remind people, it's pretty amazing. That feeling that I get from almost dying to being spared to continuing on in the health that I have, and I'm one of the lucky ones. Because a lot of people who have gone through this are paralyzed psychologically or physically. I kind of live my life like it didn't happen.
Wow.
I think it's called denial. But anyway, I started a book. And then as my mom grew older, I put it on the back shelf. I'm getting encouraged to pull it back out and finish the story. But here's the thing, Stephanie. People live their gifts and they want to give back. And that's what Live Your Gift is about. And if I can touch people's heart in 20 minutes or in an hour and get them to remember who they are, their relationships change. Whether they're at work, those relationships, because they're honoring themselves, are better. Their primary relationships are better. But the most important one is the relationship with yourself.
Yeah.
When you know what that is. So it's become a mission for me to get up and talk about a book or no book. And sing a song that coincides with, what it's like to live your gift and the love that you experience. And, my whole talk is, of course, surrounding my incredible family, what happened to me. I always include my 4 sons, and now I've got almost 7 grandkids. Wow. But it's about reminding people that they have something to say and that they are special and unique.
Yeah. Awesome. Where can they see you do this? Where you're speaking?
I'm speaking sometimes in a church, Lake Harriet community, a spiritual community. I'm also doing some talks for churches and corporations and things like that. So I have a website. It'll tell about my performances. I'm currently doing a tribute to the music of Barbra Streisand, and I've got several of those dates with some of my friends. I've got some jazz performances, and I've got speaking engagements and radio at pattypeterson.com. Patty with a Y, it's that easy. And so every Christmas when my family gets together, we have that on our websites too, and we do a Christmas concert at the Dakota, so I hope people will come out and see us.
Yeah.
And watch us live our gifts. Yeah.
Well, yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
And I also, I know we have to wrap it up in a minute here, but
Okay.
I also want to say that when living your gifts is great, but you touched on something about giving back.
Oh, yes.
And when you give back is when the fulfillment really starts to happen.
Yes.
But it starts with you. It starts with finding out who you are and what you can give back and what's going to be the most needed for people when you touch them, because I think
Yes.
everybody can touch people in a certain way and help them, whether it's with a smile or a touch or even a kind
Love the
word.
smile part. Yes.
Even a kind word
Yeah.
can change somebody's life forever. So
Isn't that true? It's so simple. Or a little song. For all we know, we might never meet again. Anyway, the last part of that is, so love me tonight, because tomorrow may never come. Thank you,
Right.
Stephanie.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah.
Oh, I know we could talk for another hour here.
I think we
but-
could too.
Yeah.
Yeah, right. Well, this has been a lot of fun for me to be with you. And thank you for coming into my home and sharing what my musical space is all about. And let me tell you about what Live Your Gift is all about, because we all have the many facets I got to talk about today. Yours is unique to you, and yours are unique to you. So as long as we can live our gift, I think we have that great compassion for others. And the reason we're all here is to be here for each other, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So we'll do this again sometime, okay?
Okay.
Yeah.
I like that
All
idea.
right.
Okay.
Until then, this has been Stephanie Allensworth with Patty Peterson.
Yes.
And
thank
we're
you.
real people.
The longing here for you. Never know how slow the moments go till I'm near to you. I see your face in every flower, your eyes and stars above make me do for love what I would not do.
When you do come out, you're going to hear familiar songs. You're going to hear them with the best musicians. This is just amazing for me to not only sing this stuff, but to stand back and watch the musicians take off on a solo and express themselves. And then we bring it back to the continuity of the song. And there it is, a unique, original piece every single time. But it's a song you know.